was the last time you focused on process versus the outcome? I know we tend to get glued to the outcome that we want to achieve, and sometimes we forget that we need to focus on the process. Hi, I'm Debra Kasowski. In today's video, we're going to talk about 3 things that you can do to help you achieve the results that you want by focusing on process. Stay tuned. It was Carl Rogers who said, "The good life is a process, not a state of being. It's a direction and not a destination." So when you're thinking about process, you're probably thinking, what is this focus and process that Deb's talking about today? And today I really wanted to zone in because I think we take for granted of how important process can be. And I'm going to separate the two first. Have you ever thought about why focus is so important? You hear about it often. I just need to focus. I can't get myself focused. And focus is, a piece of self-control, self-discipline. Focus is what expands our knowledge. It stimulates creative thinking. It helps provide efficiency, increases performance. And really, when you think about it in your personal and professional life, you can't function without it. It's the only way you can concentrate and really get things done. So now why processes? Well, you use processes all the time, and you might not even realize it. You have a process of the way you do things, how you run your household, how you budget, how you plan your vacation. You have processes in the office, and sometimes they're named different things like standard operating procedures and flow charts, but there are processes. There is a way of how to do things. And when you have a way of doing things, there's always ways to look at the system and the process to see, is there a way to streamline this and make it more efficient? Now, for those people who are all about processes and systems, you're going to love this episode and really dive into why it's important to focus on process. I don't know if you're going to believe it, but focusing on process can actually change your life. And we're going to talk about 3 ways today that it's going to do that. But first of all, when we talk about focus, like I said, self-discipline, self-control, it's really being able to concentrate on focusing in and zoning in on one thing. And, it's easy to get caught up. We have so many distractions around us, from television to social media to all of these things that are like these bright, shiny objects. And we're, constantly splitting our time, splitting our attention, where our focus is not solely in one place. So I'm going to talk about these 3 areas now. Focus on the process, not the person. What I mean by that is that when things go off track in businesses, organizations, even in life, we have this tendency of wanting to point fingers, find out who has done what. Now, instead of doing that, I want you to look at the process. Was the person supported in the right way with the process, with clear expectations to get from point A to point B? Often what happens is when I work with an individual, I will ask them to demonstrate to me how they got from A to B. And while they do that, I can often see where steps have been omitted or extra steps need to be put into a process so that we're not missing out on those very subtle things to get us to the next step. Now, if you have something to demonstrate, you can also have someone explain their thinking. How did they get from A to B? And when they're explaining their thinking in a step-by-step process, then again, there's that opportunity to see where things could be streamlined. Is there something that's missing, something that needs to be added or improved? So instead of jumping at pointing the finger, it is important to say, let's look at the process. The next one I want to talk about is focusing on the process and not the problem. See, when we focus on problems, we usually find more problems. But when we can focus on solutions in discussion with individuals, we often can find that there's ways to create these solutions within our processes. So even if you are, thinking about your workout program, you can look at the process of all the exercises that you do, that you're planning and preparing. And if something's not working, then you can go back and look at, okay, how can I solve this? Instead of focusing on the problem, let's talk in solutions. Because when you look for solutions, you'll find solutions. When you look for problems, you're going to find problems. And it forces you to really go back to your processes. What is getting in the way? What are the barriers? What are the obstacles? And who do I aspire to be to get the results that I want? So in order to do that, I need to go back to process. Another one that I want to talk to you about is focusing on process, not the results. Now, if we're only focusing on destination, as in the quote of Carl Rogers, we miss out on the journey, the process of getting to where we need to be. And when you don't get the results that you wanted, it's time to go back and look at the planning that went behind it, before the implementation. Is there anything that you've noticed from the results that you need to stop doing, start doing, and possibly, eliminate altogether? When we look at the process, we can refine and define what it is that we want. A plan is great, but planning is essential. We need to plan for those obstacles, those barriers, so that we can be prepared for any situation that can come up. And when it does, instead of focusing on people and results, let's go back to the process. Couple of things that you're going to realize when you're focusing on process. Focusing on process really requires you to be mindful and present. You need to pay attention to the task at hand or the people you're interacting with. And that's really important because you might miss a subtle comment, a body language that, exposes something that leads you to be more curious and ask more questions. Also, focusing on the effort that you're putting in. If you're focused on only the destination and how long it's going to take you to get there and all of these other things that could put you into overwhelm and a pile of stress, it's going to be hard for you to focus. So in order to focus, we need to eliminate those stressors, those distractions, those bright, shiny objects that seem to get in the way so that you can be mindful and present and perform at your very best. In closing, I just want to share a quote by W. Edwards Deming, and he said, "If you can't describe a process, you don't know what you're doing." So I know for some of you who are very analytical in mindset and very process driven and flowchart driven, you're going to think that that quote's amazing. Because, it's taken me time in my own business, my own life to create, simple processes or have ways of the way I like things done that I can streamline, be the most efficient that I can, to know where I can delegate, to know where I can really simplify my life by having these processes in place. And we often take these processes for granted. So focus on the process to get those extraordinary results. Focus is primary. And like I said earlier, whether it be personal or professional life, if you can't get your focus on, you're not going to get anything done. So you need to focus on one task at a time. And if you haven't heard the acronym for focus, FOCUS. Focus on one course until successful. While you're doing that, to make this really practical, block off chunks of time in your calendar to create focused work. Now, remember the law of Parkinson's, time expands to what you allotted. So if you give yourself a 4-hour block, something that could take you an hour to 20 minutes, you're going to stretch it to 4 hours. Now, if you want to be efficient and productive, book in smaller chunks of time. Focus on the process. And when you focus on the process of what you need to do when, you will get it done in no time. Thank you for joining me here, watching this video. And I'd love for you to go over to my website. For a limited time, we have Making Habits Stick, where you can build focus and consistency in your life, your biz. Go to www.debrakasowski.com and you can get that right away. We are changing things up, so get it as soon as you can. As Muhammad Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world and go out and make today great.